Dr. Shaw here, and welcome to another episode of Teaching Humanity Remotely. Today I want to talk to you about quality relationships with your primary person or in your friendships. How do we have quality relationships? What are the essential ingredients that ensure that we have quality relationships? And I'm going to call it the 6 C's. I'm going to mention each C, and then we're going to discuss each one at greater length. The first is communication. The second is conflict management. The third is caring for yourself and the other person that you're in relationship with. The fourth is connecting openly and deeply and really sharing who you are and what you want out of the relationship. The fifth is commitment, and the sixth is courage. And they're in no particular order. And the reason we're discussing this today is because many of the emails that I'm receiving at learnwithmeremotely@gmail.com are asking how we develop and keep quality relationships. It's so interesting how these podcasts progress and evolve. Sometimes I feel like I'm only speaking to grown-ups about grown-up issues. And other times I realize, and it's so humbling to see, that all issues are all of our issues. In other words, throughout my entire life, I want to have quality friendships and relationships. And I'm constantly learning how to get these relationships that I so desperately need and want. And it really has to do with my learning and my being able to see what I need, reflect upon it, have intention, pay attention, and then be able to make sure that I am creating these relationships that are going to serve me well. So let's talk about the first C, communication. If I am not open and being part of active communication with the other person, I won't be fulfilled. Active communication means that I'm listening as well as I'm speaking, and I'm not afraid to ask for what I need. And also using phrases that are in the first person. In other words, no one can make me feel a certain way. I can be in relationship with someone and I might not feel good after I encounter them, but it's not that they made me feel not good. I don't feel good when you yell at me. That's taking responsibility for my feelings and not blaming it on the other person. Now, that other person has an opportunity to say, okay, I want you to feel good, so I will no longer yell at you. And I have an opportunity to say, I'm not going to be in a relationship with someone who yells at me. It's really just that simple. And conflict management, number 2, is about how do we have differences of opinions, have debates, and yet also ensure that we are able to resolve our conflict. So we need to teach our children that. And that's why this podcast, that might seem, oh, this is a very mature subject, it really isn't. It really is about all of us need to learn how to resolve our conflicts. And if we can model that as grown-ups in front of our children, if teachers and parents can model how it is when we get upset with each other, then that would be really beneficial in teaching our children how to have that kind of skill and strategy. So again, everything that we feel that we need as adults, children also need. We all want to have quality relationships. I mean, quite frankly, I want to have a quality relationship or no relationship at all, right? So how do we teach our children to work and have the ability to resolve conflict? It's by modeling and saying, this is how I have to compromise with daddy, or this is how I have to compromise with you. I wanted you to brush your hair 10 minutes ago, and you said, hey, can you give me 10 minutes? And I said, yes. So that was a way to resolve a conflict even before it happens. Because what am I teaching you there? Oh, yes, that's right. I'm teaching you to be flexible and compromise. Just note and mark and show. The next thing we need to do is really be able to care for ourselves. You need to remember that self-love and self-caring allows us to feel better, be healthier, and allow us to take care of the people we're in relationship with. And I think that we so do not do a good job of modeling that, because when we're busy parents and we're trying to make dinner and get things together before the night's end so that the morning runs smoothly, we are just in such a hurry that we do not model self-care. And it even comes across where we're not really taking care of the other person. So I think to say, when there's a moment of peace in the house and you're able to say, hey, you know what, kids, I'm taking like 15 minutes. I'm going to take a bath. And do you know where the bubbles are? And I'm going to have a candle. I'm going to light a candle. It's nice to show your family that you know the secret of caring for yourself, and to teach your children how to care for themselves. To know, not as a punishment, but that sometimes we need to time ourselves out. I have a book for children that says time out is really time in. It really is a time to go inward and to reflect on what you need. And I love the fact, if you're watching children, I love the fact that when I watch young children, they know when they need a break. I always admired the kids who were like, when there would be like some sort of social discontent, they'd be able to just go right to that reading corner and just pull up a book. That child was telling me, I know how to self-soothe. I know how to take care of myself. And self-care and caring for the other person, I do it through cooking. I love to cook for my family. I love to cook for workers who come to the house. I'm always feeding them. I had a worker the other day said, no one fed me in 2 years. No owner of a place that I was doing work for gave us food for 2 years. And to me, it's just such a natural thing. You know, you're here, you're doing work for me. I'm going to feed you. I want to be nurturing. So I think it's really important to show your family, and for teachers to show the students how they take care of the students, how they take care of their coworkers, how we're a family, that, you know, not just in like, oh, we're family, but in action, saying one for all for one. There's a saying, and I really love the saying, and I think about it daily. I'm not going to quote it, but what it means, no one could be free if there's one person in bondage. And it's a very, very high scale. And of course, you know, I don't live in a world that practices that particular scale, but in my own self, my actions, I'm very conscious of feeling, no matter how great my life is, I'm always wanting to serve others that are less fortunate. That's part of the whole package of having a great life. The more you have, the more you can give. And I think it's really essential to do that. So I think that's about caring for others and showing your child that you have that ability. The fourth C is connecting openly and deeply. And what I want to say about this C that I think is so important is that they say that the way you want your relationship to be, you need to make sure you're implementing it at the very beginning. And I think that people who are older, who get involved like in their new like love interest at a later date, I think they're really good at this. And I think they're really good at this because they see that time is getting shorter and shorter, and they're better at time management. And I know for myself that I really was careful that I'm in a newish relationship, a little over 10 years. And at the beginning of that relationship, everything I didn't have in all of my other former relationships, love interest relationships, I made sure I put on the table saying I want. And I have the most romantic partner. He came to the relationship already being romantic, but as part of our daily living, you know, we make sure that that was something we wanted in the beginning of our relationship, and we have continued ever since. So how you initiate and start your relationship is how it will continue. My granddaughter has a best friend. They've been best friends since they're 3. They're about 10 now. And they would have it out. They would duke it out, but they would find ways to have good conflict management and conflict resolution, and they can talk about anything and they can work anything out because it started that way. It started where one child was sort of leading and the other child was following, and that following child realized that she needed to develop a voice, that was what was being offered to her in this friendship, and she has developed a voice, and the other person realized that she took up too much space, and they learned how to accommodate and be flexible and compromise, and they have like the best friendship, and it's beautiful to see. And their wish always is for them to just be together. They live in different states, but it's a really beautiful thing, and it's because they learned these C's. They learned how to ask for what they wanted in a relationship, and it's just lovely to watch. The fifth C is commitment. If we're not committed to making relationships work or to making sure that we get what we want out of the relationship, then relationships won't be as fulfilling. For me, let's say, in my present day life, let me repeat, I will only be in relationships that are uplifting, that are championing each other, that are positive, because positive energy is contagious and I want to be in a positive place, not a negative place. Negative energy is also contagious, so I don't want to be around that. So I will only be in relationships that have my best interest. Now, I am not forced to be in the world as a worker the way I was in my 20s and my 30s and my 40s. And my spiritual teacher when I was in my 20s said this to me, and he was absolutely right. When you're in those decades of your life, you have to be proving yourself in the world, and you have to be out there, and you're going to meet all different types of people and be in all different types of relationships. And some of it might be with horrible bosses or difficult co-workers or just different kinds of challenges. I am lucky enough to be past that stage. So now I'm in relationships that I don't need, I just want. And so I moved to a new neighborhood, I'm setting up book clubs, I'm having cocktail parties, but I'm only really relating to people who I can tell are going to uplift me because I am only committed to uplifting them. And with the self-care that I'm talking about, caring for oneself, I'm uplifting myself too by being in relationships that are not going to bring me down, that are only going to lift me up. I'm choosing to say, I see the best in you. And what I want from you is to see the best in me. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to get learning lessons. It doesn't mean that there aren't ways to explore areas that I want to grow in. It just means I'm going to be exploring those areas with people who have my back and want what is best for me and not want to hurt me. So the commitment is, what do I want in a relationship? And how do I ensure that I get it? And what is my commitment to be true to myself? So let's say I get involved with someone and I'm committed to everything I told you about, uplifting, championing relationships, and I see the person is sort of a backstabber. How committed am I? Am I committed enough to my original commitment, which is I only want to be in uplifting relationships, so I get out of this relationship that I can see is going to be a little poisonous and toxic? I hope so. That's what I mean by commitment. Commitment not to stay in relationships that don't serve. My commitment is to be in relationships that do serve. So get out when I can, because again, I'm not forced to be in these kinds of relationships that I had to be in throughout my entire life. And at those times, being in relationships with difficult bosses or different colleagues, they taught me a lot. And sometimes I even learned more from those challenges. Maybe I learned by being in relationships that didn't serve me how much I need to be able to get out of those relationships and make sure that I'm in relationships where we take care of each other. So those relationships are important. And now I'm in a place where I can make sure that I'm committed to only being in uplifting, healthy relationships and only doing my part in a relationship to make sure I'm uplifting the other people and supporting them, because that's what I want. And they, that golden rule thing, right? Treat others the way you want to be treated. And the last thing is courage. I need to be strong enough to be able to ask for what I need. And that is completely on me. And how I get courage, I believe, is through self-love and having the ability to reflect on what is serving me, how I'm being served, how I'm able to serve, and what I need to alter in order to make sure that I'm in a relationship that is allowing me to take risks because I have courage. I'm only going to be able to have courage in relationships if I know that I'm with people who care about me and have my best interest and want what is best for me. Then it's not so hard to have courage, right? But if I'm up against an enemy, then it would be much harder. So again, it has to do with being clear about how does it feel when I'm with that other person? How does it feel when I leave that other person? And so when it feels right, it doesn't feel so courageous, but there's courage in that too. So I hope this helps you. I know it's very important. We want our children to learn how to have healthy, quality relationships because we are animals that are social. And it's very fulfilling for us animals who are social, our humanness, to be thriving when we have quality relationships. So I hope that this helps you, and please feel free to visit me at learnwithmeremotely.com, and also go to my authors page, Dr. Mindy Shaw, Paperbacks at Amazon. Thank you. Until next time.